Hey everybody, today I want to talk about some of what's going on a global level, and what's happening right here for us in the GTA as it relates to that, the global COVID-19, and share some thoughts around how to process that, how to communicate internally in your own families. And it's really just sharing thoughts on this. I'm not a pandemic expert, as you know. But this is important, right? So if I can share some thoughts and help in some way, then that's a good thing. So that's really what this is about. So we've all kind of seen the graph out there, most of us at least, around flattening the curve and the importance of that. So when we look at that, if we don't act quick enough, we see this big spike. If this is the threshold where our medical system can handle an influx, the idea here is to act sooner and flatten out that curve so that this threshold doesn't get surpassed. So what happens in this area? We've seen this in other countries like Italy and Spain. We get reports out of those countries. They appear to be valid reports. And what's happening in this area right here, the influx of patients is too much for the medical system to handle. And so we get this collateral damage effect, right, where the medical staff are being crushed. They can't keep up with the demand. And on top of that, we have reports of patients who can't be seen during that time outside of COVID-19 that need medical attention. And so you get this situation where they can't keep up, and casualties are a result of that. And so that's the goal of flattening the curve. And so how do we flatten that curve? We act sooner, right? So anecdotally, I see this spectrum of responses out there. If this is panic and this is don't care, we want to be able to strike the right balance, right? And so we see, let's say this is a normal kind of line of demarcation, right? We see, fist fights at Walmart for toilet paper and things like that aren't going to help anything. And what I think is also fairly pervasive right now still is, whether it's a response to this panic set of people or not, I don't know, but it's almost like an overreaction, right? Which is to underreact. And there's, I think, from what I can see out there and what I read out there, there's still a pretty decent size portion of the population that is in this underreacting kind of phase of things. Which is equally as dangerous as the overreacting and the panic. The underreacting is, well, I don't want to be that person who's fighting at Walmart. That's silly. These people are kind of off the rocker. And so I'm going to just, compartmentalize this. I'm going to go about my business, not change too much. Everybody's being a little bit silly about this. And if I get it, then I'll get over it because I'm safe, and I'll just not interact with old people. The challenge with that is that, again, based on the information that we have at our disposal, that's not a viable strategy. And it's this underreacting that other countries are kind of communicating out from their borders and saying, this underreacting is what leads to this spike. And so, very, very important, right? Underreacting, saying I'm not going to interact with old people. Well, we don't know that. I can't know to any level of certainty when I interact with somebody who they've been in contact and who those people have been in contact for the last 14 days. It's not possible. So it's not a rational strategy to say, I'll just do my business, and if I get it, then I won't interact with old people. Well, we can't control it that way. And that's why people who study pandemic and teach on pandemics are fairly consistent in this kind of exponential growth curve, and now this idea of flattening this big spike in this curve. So for the last couple of weeks, ever since we realized that this wasn't, a standard kind of situation, which has been at least a couple of weeks now, we've been communicating internally. So those are the thoughts that I want to share. So how do we take a situation like this, one, and respond well, and two, possibly use it to help our kids and to communicate with our kids and to keep them informed but not freaked out. So I'll share those thoughts. We have been communicating now for a couple of weeks, again, since we learned that this isn't a standard situation. that we're going to, here's our guiding principle, we're going to respond smart and quick. So we're going to keep ourselves informed, and information is coming in every hour, let alone every half day or every day. It's coming in very, very frequently, and so we're going to stay informed, and we're going to make the smartest decisions we can. Not maybe the most comfortable, but definitely the smartest. And so we're going to, from the sake of concept, we're going to strike a balance right here on this spectrum. We're not going to be in panic for sure. We will not overreact. We are not going to be in underreact. We will not do that, because both are very dangerous. We're going to stay informed and strike our balance. And if we move a little bit this way and a little bit this way, or 5 degrees that way and 5 degrees that way, that we'll take the information as it comes and we'll respond, again, moving smart and fast. Smart and fast, I think, would be 2 words to describe how to get out in front of this and flatten out that curve. So I've been fortunate enough to been in some crisis management situations in the past, and I didn't respond perfectly to those things. Part of my own personal postmortem, as I dug into this and researched bigger crisis management situations, was that this is kind of the guiding principle through this. And so if you think about this, it's one of these things that translates into all areas of life, regardless of how big the adversity is in front of you. You want to gather information, assess the information, make good decisions, and be decisive about that. And that's important, right? Not only is it important in personal and business and everyday life, but the more adverse the situation, the more important it is to follow that framework. And so there's some really good information floating around out there, good sentiments that people are sharing, that I couldn't agree with more. One is, remember that your kids are going to remember how you went through this. This is not a standard situation, so they will remember this. And so for me and us, part of what we want them to remember is that we had these guiding principles. We're not going to overreact. We're not going to underreact. We are going to gather information, assess it, and move quick and smart. And we won't stay 2 steps behind. We're not going to be the frog in the boiling water. That doesn't mean we're going to panic. It means we're going to be quick and smart and be decisive about what we're doing and why we're doing it. And we've been consistently communicating with the kids around that, and I hope this is something that they remember. The second thing I would like to see them remember as they look back on this is that regardless of how this unfolds, and again, information is coming in very quickly, regardless of how this unfolds, we are going to remember that the people around us are people, and that empathy and compassion, regardless of where we land here and why, empathy and compassion, and remembering that the people around us are people and we can care for them throughout this entire thing, is the second thing that we'd want them to remember. So again, just sharing some thoughts. Hopefully everybody out there, whether you distill the information and land on the same spot as I do isn't the point. The point is to share a framework around how to digest this, and especially not to land here or here in response to whatever, your own internal emotions or your own assessment of how somebody else is responding. I would say that it's not smart to get caught up in that. Gather the information from credible sources and figure out where you land that is the smartest and best place, and move fast. So I hope that helps. Hope everybody's doing well, and remember the empathy and compassion thing. I know I will, and will continue to remind myself of that as we go.